Hi there. Good evening, and you're welcome. Welcome to the African Football Scouts and Coaches Association's our own version of a World Cup show. A World Cup show that highlights the performances and participation of African teams in the World Cup. Brought to you by the African Football Scouts and Coaches Association, Afscoan, which stands for the identity and credibility of high-level scouting and coaching in Africa by Africans. We're intentional. We want to make sure that our job as scouts and coaches is actually recognized and given credence and credibility by the world out there. And therefore, our program will be channeled and recorded and directed by our own members. I am Tunde Adelakun, the founder and president of Afscoan, and I'm joined by Atopatele, my able director and member of Afscoan. You're welcome, Nina.
Thank you for having me, sir. Yeah, it's been an interesting football for the World Cup. The African teams. Finally, we have a win. Thankfully, we have a win and we have some goals. So we're happy.
Absolutely. I was about to say, what have we just seen? Because if you see the post that we put out to promote and advertise this program for today, we were talking about no wins for Africa, 2 draws and 3 losses. Goals for 2, goals against 6. Now, Niran, I've covered football worldwide, and I know that there was a time when we were far ahead of Asia in terms of international football. There was a time we were far ahead of Asia. Now we can see that the Asian teams have recorded now 3 wins, if you count what they did today as well against Wales. 2 wins, 1 draw, and 2 losses. 7 goals and 11 against before today. What is the magic? What is wrong with us in Africa, and what is so right with them in Asia?
Basically, it's the development of the game, development of the countries as well as a whole, because I think that also supports the development in sports. Because when you look at it, I remember back in the 90s, Arabs were minnows in football. They were minnows. That's the Middle Eastern Arab countries. They were minnows in football. Like Saudi Arabia, likes of Iran, they play against African teams. They lose 5, 6, 7-0. But today the case is different. Even Senegal, they didn't walk through Qatar, even though they won today. Finally, it was just they didn't walk through. They had some even luck. The first goal was very lucky. That opened the game for them. So you can see that that development in the country, the fact that they have good administration, everything is working properly. They have proper ways where players get into the system, where they grow in the system. Same for coaches. The leagues are working properly. In Nigeria now, the league is over 5 months or 6 months that has not resumed. So those are the problems that we're facing in Africa. So I don't know what's going to happen.
Well, but you say about the countries that we're talking about. Now, again, with the fact that we are internationally exposed and we know what we're talking about, you look at a country like Iran. Iran is in unrest even as we're talking right now. There are protests going on in Iran on a daily basis against the government, against the regime. There's so much protest going on in Saudi Arabia against the government, against the regime. So it's not like if there is stability in these countries. You look at the likes of Japan and South Korea, and those who have gone on and achieved big results, even in this World Cup. Saudi Arabia, Japan, it's not like if their country is resting easy. So there's one thing to talk about the football, there's another thing to talk about stability. What is wrong with us in Africa? Why don't we seem able to get it right as far as African football is concerned. It is a big point of worry. Okay, so we saw the game today. We saw that Senegal beat Qatar. It wasn't a walk in the park. It wasn't a walk in the park by any stretch of imagination. We could see that Qatar actually came to play, and then, okay, the quality didn't show in the end. The Senegalese quality came to show in the end, but it wasn't like it used to be many years before. We don't seem to have that finger on it to say we've got it right. What's going on?
To be honest, there's unrest. There's even in Africa, there's unrest. Yes, there's unrest. There's unrest in Nigeria as we speak. So Nigeria, so the truth is that most of the developed countries are still developing. There's unrest, some sort of unrest. But the thing is, if you get the administration right, things will be better. We get better little by little by little. In 94, Nigeria have not moved forward from 1994 in terms of football. We haven't moved forward. We've stayed on the same level that we were in 94. And other countries are improving. Other countries are growing in the sport. Other countries are trying so hard to level up even the best. The US, the Nigeria cannot even talk where the US is today in football. Because these countries are doing the right things. Even if the likes of Iran have unrest, the likes of Saudi Arabia have unrest, they are still doing the right things. They pump money into the league. Saudi Arabia now have many world-class players that were formerly playing in the top league all over the world, are now playing in Saudi Arabia. Our own Igalo is there. Odion Igalo is there playing in the league. You understand? Can Nigeria afford those kind of? Can the Nigerian league even afford those kind of players? That kind of quality to expose, to give the players in the league the exposure. Even in Senegal, they can't do that. The only places where that can happen is maybe not the northern African countries where their football is a bit developed as well. But for all in sub-Saharan Africa, we need to get, for me, that's my own take, that administration must be gotten right. The administration, the way things are happening. For example, I'm a coach, sir. In Nigeria, there's no coaching pathway at the moment. And as Wenger, I heard one of his discussions. He said that he put quality of coaches as having a direct link with FIFA ranking, with the FIFA rankings. Quality of coaches in the country having a direct link with the FIFA rankings. So where there are more quality coaches, the teams that tend to be higher in the FIFA rankings. But in Nigeria, there's no coaching pathway. So how do we stop this fall that we're falling since 94? We will keep falling. And if care is not taken, maybe in the next 10, 20 years, we'll go to 60, 70 on the table, on the FIFA ranking table. If care is not taken.
Now, it's a very interesting points because obviously we're talking about coaching here. And before we go to coaching, because coaching is why we're here, the Afscoan is, our program is presented by Afscoan, the African Football Scouts and Coaches Association. And the whole idea of Afscoan is to actually provide that pathway into coaching for us to be able to develop ourselves and develop coaching in Africa by Africans for Africa. However, before we go into that, we're looking at these performances that just came up on the screen and it's not there anymore, where we've played 5 matches as a continent and we've only drawn 2 and lost 3. Bleak when you look at it. Okay, it's early days. Maybe things would improve starting from today. Maybe a few more of our countries will do well in the future. But at the moment, from what we can see, it's not looking good. Now you go further and you think that we've got 5 countries representing Africa in this World Cup out of 32 countries. The next World Cup will have 48 countries in America, in US, Canada, and Mexico. And there will be 9 African countries. 9 African countries. Okay, so the top 5 African countries don't seem able to rub shoulders successfully with the best in the world. By the time we go down to the top 9 African countries, what does the future hold for us?
The World Cup in 2026 is going to have 48 teams. 48 teams.
Mm.
And there'll be 3 teams per group. 3 teams per group. That means that they are going to be, according to that, that's about a lot of groups, like 15 groups or so, 16 groups.
16 groups.
Exactly. So there'll be 16 groups, 3 teams, and only one is going through. Only one is going through. So the probability that we won't get somebody in the knockout stage is lesser. It is lesser because now that means you're going to have one super power in every group. There'll be one big team in every group. That means one group. That means Germany will be one group, France will be in one group, Brazil will be in one group, Portugal will be in one group, England will be in one group, Holland will be in one group. These powerful teams will be spread around all those groups because it's going to be according to seeding. They'll spread around those groups. So what hope do Africa now have to qualify in those kind of groups? Because most times we qualify, few times we qualified first, few times, but it's going to even be harder with one team qualifying from each group for Africa to have registration in final 16. So it's going to be hard. For me, it's going to be very, very, yes, we can do it, but as I said, we still have to get things right. 4 years is good enough time for us to at least start putting things right.
4 years. We've got 4 years. We've got 4 years to work on things. And those 4 years have to come from administration, have to come from governance, have to come from a lack of greed. Because a lot of our administrators seem to be thinking only about the money that's going to come from the FIFA. From FIFA, when they qualify for the World Cup, they don't think about plowing that money back in to the development of the game.
Yes, I wanted to go there, but I just want to talk too much. You know, the corruption, for example, I know a lot about my own country. It is endemic. It is endemic in Nigeria. Endemic. Like it's I don't know how we're going to get out of it. Because you come to a situation where people are looking. For example, I was watching the FIFA Uncovered. Is it Uncovered or something? The show that's exposing the greed and the corruption in FIFA. You know, the African countries, according to what was there, the African countries were collecting cash into their personal accounts for their personal self. While other countries had other deals that, in a way, benefited the country as a whole, even though it was corruption. But at least the deals benefited their countries as a whole. But in Nigeria, the individuals just pocketed the money, millions of dollars, for themselves only. They did not develop the country in any way. They don't develop anywhere. They don't do anything for the people of the nation. So that is the kind of greed that we're talking about in Africa. We have to. I don't know what's going to happen in that. In fact, that is the major problem. That is why other things are not right. All the other things I've mentioned earlier, the league system, the coaching, the administration, the major factor in doing all those things is the corruption. Because we love football in Nigeria. Nigerians love football.
Okay. Now, let me remind our viewers, you're watching the Africa in Qatar episode 3, which is Africa's wrap of our performance in the World Cup so far in Qatar 2022, brought to you by Afscoan, the African Football Scouts and Coaches Association, which is an association aimed at giving identity, credibility, and respect to the job of scouting and coaching in Africa by Africans. To join the Afscoan, all you need to do is do an email to us, join@afscoan.com. It's as simple as that. People were sending messages to me in the last couple of days. How do we join? How much do we need? You don't need anything. We're non-profit making. We're not here to make money off of you. We want to develop and grow the game. And don't forget, whenever you watch this, if you have any comments, please drop your comments. Drop your comments for us. Even while you're watching right now, you drop your comments and we can address those comments immediately. Because this is a game for all of us and we're all concerned. We're all concerned. We're all involved. And we want to see the game grow. We want to see the game grow in every way. What do you think, Nilan?
Of course, that's Afscoan. That's Afscoan for you. You said it all, sir. We want the game to grow. Basically, we want to exploit the pool of talent in the country, because at the moment, for me, it's people who get to the top of the game in Nigeria at the moment are, I would say Nigeria, because Nigeria I know, are people who just by chance get there, or they have one agent that knows somebody, but we're not really getting the best of the pool of talent in the country. So that's one of the things AFCON is there for, to develop coaches, exploit the talent in the country, develop the game as a whole, and we're going to attempt to do all those things. So don't forget to follow on Twitter, join AFSCON, join AFSCON at joinafscon.com, and don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube page and like this video. And also, when we're discussing, please leave your opinions in the comment section. Leave your opinions in the comment section if you have any comments or anything at all, and we'll discuss them on the show. Even if we can't discuss them on this show, some of them will be noted down and discussed on the next show. Thank you.
Thank you, Nilan. Now, from an Afghan perspective, from a coaches and scouting perspective, you look at the fact that for the first time ever, we're looking at a World Cup that has got 5 African nations coached by 5 African coaches. And what you would have loved to see to vindicate our position as Afghan, as African coaches, is for all those coaches to be winning matches. They haven't won one. Okay, Ali Usise just won one an hour ago. But how much of it is down to the coaches? Now, because we say sometimes when we go for World Cups and we don't do well from Africa, we say we employ the wrong coaches. We employ journeyman coaches who just came to take our money. But now we have entrusted our own coaches with the job. And it's still, so far, 2 games to play for each of them, but still have not got the job done.
Well, for that, honestly, I wanted African to do well because of the coaches. Actually, this year, I was really hopeful that they were going to get some wins, so that we'll prove that everything we've been saying for a while is true. But the truth is, I still believe it's better to employ top African coaches than to go and be employing people who have not had any decent job in years. People like Pesero, I'm sorry to say, he has not had a decent job in years, and Nigeria employed. So I don't want those kind of coaches in the country, which will be employing coaches with pedigree. You can't employ a coach with pedigree, and you employ an African coach that has done something for himself. That's how I see it. But to be honest, I don't think they've done too bad. The Africans have done too bad. Yes, we've been unable to turn draws into wins, and in some cases we've been unlucky. For example, the 2 games we lost in the first level, for me, were just bad. Some individual error on Edouard Mendy's side, and for the Ghana game, it was injustice for me, because I felt the Ronaldo penalty was never a penalty. They both touched the ball and they had body contact and both went down. So it could have, for me, it was more a foul to Ghana, as Odo said, more a foul to, but you can never say. So the coaches, I'm still hopeful that they will do well. They will do well. Ghana played the best team in their group, so the other 2 matches maybe they can fight for something there. Senegal played the best team in their group in the first match as well, and they've already gotten 3 points from the second game. So hopefully, and we're improving. You know, we first started with 0 goals. We didn't score in the first 4 matches. Ghana scored 2 for the loss, and today they scored 3 goals. So the improvement is happening. You know, sometimes people can be overawed by the first game. Even Qatar played well today, better than they played against Ecuador. So maybe those first game jitters are not more there, and maybe we're going to improve in the future. I'm very hopeful for that. They will improve to an extent.
We want to talk about Morocco and Tunisia. These are 2 North African teams that play a more technically biased form of football. what did they do in their games when Morocco played Croatia? Croatia with all their flair, and Tunisia as well against Denmark. What did they do on the field from a scouting and coaching perspective? How do you think they performed?
As I've said, Tunisia, Morocco played against Croatia. Tunisia played against Denmark. Was it?
Yes.
I'm right, yeah?
Yes.
These, yeah, they are not the perennial powerhouses that we know in football, Croatia and Denmark. But the truth is that these two teams have quality. They have a lot of quality. Denmark, France have not been able to beat Denmark in the last 3 meetings. Denmark has been getting the better of them. So Denmark had the best defensive unit of any team in qualifying, and from the European section. I don't know whether it's all over the world, but from the European section, they had the best defensive unit. And Croatia have a former Ballon d'Or player of the year. They have players in Inter Milan, players in Tottenham Hotspur, players in AC Milan, players in top teams all over Leipzig, top teams all over Europe. So the Croatian team is a very, very, very solid team. And they have experience. Brozovic, Perisic, Modric. These are experienced internationals. Experienced, solid, Lovren and co. Solidly experienced players. So for me, those two results were not bad results. They were far from bad results. But however, one thing I noticed, I said this in a previous show, the intent in the final third is not there. It is not there. Yes, it's good not to lose games, but there are times when the decision making in the final third wasn't there. The final pass wasn't right. The final decision making, whether to shoot, whether to pass, wasn't right. So just those little details in the final third, and one of them could have gotten the 3 points. So they just have to. Defensively, they are all right. Morocco and Tunisia, their organization from the defensive third, the middle third is very, very good. But is that final third, the decision making, the final pass, the combination play in those areas are not there. The bodies, they don't get enough bodies into those final third areas to even deserve a goal. From what I saw, they don't. I don't think a proper defense would concede from just one or two players trying to penetrate through them. It won't happen. So hopefully, maybe because they played very solid teams, hopefully when they are playing teams that or maybe because of the first game, because I know many teams like to be cagey. They don't want to lose that first game. They want to make sure that first game is not lost. So, and they did not lose. So maybe going forward, they'll be more expansive in the final third going forward, and they'll put more bodies in there and get goals to start the drawing to win.
Do you know what I think I noticed was the fact that in the Morocco and Tunisia game, and also in Portugal, Ghana, it was very predictable from our African teams. It's very easy. I'm a scout. I've done scouting for many years.
Yes, I know that.
More scouting than coaching. And I think that our boys, the Morocco to Tunisia, are very, very predictable, so much so that if the Denmark team, the Danes, and the Portuguese team could afford to be very compact in the middle, squeezing the pitch and squeezing things, so much so that they were forcing our players wide. It was very compact. It was very compact.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
And so what that meant was that we were forced wide. Morocco was forced wide. Tunisia was forced wide. Even Ghana was forced wide. And when all these boys are forced wide, without a point man, without an actual point man in the middle of that park, right in the middle of the box, who can be targeted if you force them wide. So I didn't see any point dangerous number 9 center forward for Tunisia, for Morocco. And I mean, I wanted to look at the games one after the other. The game against the game Portugal Ghana yesterday. Forget about the penalty. forget about what we did, what Ghana did, going forward and all that. They managed to score 2 goals against Portugal. Could they not have had a third? A more agile, more potent centre forward gets himself in a position in injury time where the goalkeeper drops the ball, and all he needed to do was really backheel the ball, and it will be 3-3. But we don't seem to have that. They squeeze us tight, and we don't have a point man. And I don't think Africa has spent time grooming a Didier Drogba type figure in the attack anymore. Didier Drogba, Samuel Eto'o, Patrick Mboma, somebody who is a standout number 9. We didn't have, and I don't think we have had in any of the games that we have seen from Africa. Is that a wrong observation?
That's absolutely correct. Because if you are not, as I said earlier, we didn't put bodies up front, and if you are not putting bodies up front, then you need the body that is up front, the single person that is put up front, to be a very physical presence in the front. Someone like Olivier Giroud, someone that you can knock the ball to from 50 yards and then hold on to it in the midst of 5 people and then knock it off to the next man to make everybody come forward, hold it up so that the team can now push forward. But that's not there. And also, again, another thing that's lacking again, the African teams, we don't have quality number 10, quality playmakers. The likes of what's their name? Or the players and other things. The Modric of this world. We don't have those kind of players. We don't have people like Toni Kroos. We don't have people like Neymar. We don't have those kind of players who can create something out of nothing, create chances, create balls. So when you don't have those kind of players and the middle of the field is tight, you have to go wide and start looking for hopeful balls. I call them hopeful balls. But when you're going wide and crossing, they are hopeful balls. So if we don't have creativity and we don't have the point man, as you said, it is going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult. But to be honest, me, the idea of the Ghana game, I understood it yesterday. The idea of the Ghana game, you are playing a very quality side. The Ghanaians, I can excuse them, play a quality side because Portugal, for me, in the whole of the World Cup, Portugal is the team with the most creativity. But when you look at Cancelo, you look at Guerrero, you look at Otavio, Vitinha, Bruno Fernandes, Joao Felix, these are creative players. A lot of creativity coming from all angles. Bruno Fernandes, Bernardo Silva. So the creativity, there's a lot of creativity in the Portuguese team. So the fact that Ghana decided to stifle what you said, yeah, Ghana did that yesterday. They stifled the middle. They did not allow them to create until that goal came in. After the goal, I think they lost a bit of their discipline and everything was just scattered. But before that goal, for the penalty, they were able to constrict the middle, the center of the field, tighten up the whole space with the 5 defenders, 3 central midfielders, and 2 strikers that they played. With one of the strikers dropping back, Andrea Ayew was dropping back sometimes up in that middle. So they made it 4 in the middle, and they forced the Portuguese team wide. But the resulting consequence of that is that when you now get the ball, you cannot go forward immediately because the person they had in front, as I said, was not a target man. It was Inaki Williams. Inaki Williams is known for his pace and his guile, his speed, his dribbling, not his ability to hold up the ball. So they didn't have that presence. So I don't know. For me, I would have played. Yesterday for the Ghanaians, I would rather have played Afena Gyan. Afena Gyan still has a bit of physical. The Roma teenager. I don't know whether you know him.
Oh
yeah. Pretty Nigeria. He at least is a bit more robust in his physicality than Inaki Williams, and is more of a fighter. So maybe he should have started the game, or maybe the guy that scored the second goal. So because that guy, also when he came on, he was fighting, he was struggling, So I think those guys should have started ahead of Inaki Williams. So that's the only thing I have for them. But I believe Ghana will improve as the tournament goes on because they played the best. For me, they played the best team in the group yesterday.
And still talking Ghana because we were going to come to it later, but might as well address it right now. You look at the Ghana team that played that game, and I look at decision making. I look at coaches' decision making from the dugout, from the bench, and substitutions. You look at the substitutions that were made and what it cost Ghana. They took off their best player, as far as I was concerned, most dangerous was Kudus.
Kudus should never have gone off. Never.
I mean, he was creating everything. He was taking the bull by the horn. He was actually taking shots, from outside the area, from within the area. He was unlocking them, and he was a threat. So anytime he gets onto the ball, they commit one, two players to him, and it opens up space for all the others. They take him off. They take their captain off, Andre Ayew, who might have been tired, although he didn't look particularly happy to have come off at the time when he did. And they brought in his brother, who lost the ball twice to concede the goals. So sometimes you now look at it, and when people talk about the fact that decision making on the bench can also be very costly, and that is probably why African coaches still don't get it right and all that, then you start to wonder, maybe we need a little bit more education on what actually we need to be looking at in order to make our changes, in order to effect changes and do what we need to do in our game.
The two important men on the Ghana dugout are not African trained coaches. Otto Addo and the former Brighton manager, forgotten his name now, Chris Hilton. They are not African trained coaches, so I believe that they know what to do in situation. But the thing is, coaching is a very difficult thing. You do something. I will give an example. The Dutch in the 2014 World Cup, they played against Costa Rica in the round of 16 or quarterfinal. I can't remember. I think quarterfinal. Yeah, against Costa Rica, and in extra time, Van Gaal takes off the keeper and put on that keeper, and they won. And everybody, Van Gaal is the genius. Then on that time, on that keeper did it, they lost. Oh, that Chelsea was Chelsea that did it when they went the final. And that is a mess up. It's a mess up. What can you do that? He did the wrong decision. So these are the things. Football coaching is very difficult. You make a decision, it goes right, you are the king. You make a decision, it goes wrong, you are a failure. That's all it is. But although I agree with some points there, for me, the one I just didn't understand why I played the full match was Inaki Williams. Inaki Williams should have gone off at halftime, for a matter of fact, at halftime. But decision making, sometimes it goes right, sometimes it goes wrong. So and I've not been coaching as long as those guys, so I cannot say I know better than them, because Cristiano I've been coaching for over 20 years, so I cannot say I know better than them because I'm just a baby in the game. But in some ways, maybe you can say yes, because you have to pay the consequences of your actions. You can say yes, maybe they were wrong decisions, because in hindsight, wrong decisions. But I don't think that's just the reason why they lost. I think generally that after that goal, that discipline was not there, because they scored. And I think sometimes it's easy to get carried away after you score the goal. You are a bit carried away. You want to now start doing papa. You want to be more expansive, because I thought the first 60 minutes of that game, they were very tight. Ghana had to score from a penalty. That's how tight they were. Portugal had to score from a penalty. That's how tight they were. They were very tight, compact. You get, but after they scored, they considered, they attacked, they scored, and then they believe that, oh, okay, we can play ball now. So that's now what opened their defense to this thing. But also, yeah, but although losing the ball, as I said about Jordan Ayew, it can happen. It can happen to any player. Players lose the ball and concede. I've seen Messi lose ball and the team concede before. I've seen Ronaldo lose the ball and the team concede. It happens to everybody.
And with Cameroon playing against Switzerland, Cameroon had the game against Switzerland. I believe that Cameroon in that first half were showing Switzerland who was boss. They were physically, they matched them strength for strength, matched them gut for gut, and it was that killer instinct that. And what puzzles me sometimes is these players, when they're playing at club level, Choupo-Moting, when he's playing in Bayern Munich, such a potent, deadly striker. You don't give him an inch, he will take his chances against you. And he played yesterday, and It was not a great sight. Not a great sight. We look at the likes of Toko Ekambi. We look at the likes of that front three when they started the game against Switzerland. I was like, how can Switzerland, go on and beat this kind of team? Because Cameroon had it all. They had physicality. They had that man, Zambia Angisa, in the center of the park who was commanding things. They had a back four that was working very well. What went wrong with Cameroon?
Uh, well, we always say something about the African players that when they play in Europe, almost all the countries say it, that when they play in their club sides, they do well. And it's true. But there are reasons for that, because most times the clubs buy players according to how they complement each other. So it's easier for the talent of players to come out. That's why most players they play better for their country. Most players play better for their clubs. Most players play better for their clubs because of that simple notion, that simple idea that the teams they buy players to complement the tactics. But in the national team, they are more or less stuck with the players that you have. Now, if you just talk about Europe, if you go to all the teams that African players are flourishing, the players that you mentioned in their clubs, they have proper. These teams have proper creative players in those. As I said earlier, we don't have creativity in Africa. There's no player in Africa now that is playing the number 10 role at the highest level in his club. There's none. There's none. They either playing defensive midfield, center forward, defense. There's no one in that creative role anywhere in Europe at the top level that I know of. I don't know anybody, but the top clubs in Arsenal, they are all either defensive midfielders, that's ball winning midfielders, or they are wingers, or they are center forwards, or they are defenders. So Africa, we lack talent in that creativity pool. In that creativity pool that allows, and this is the creativity that allows attacking players to flourish. Without proper creativity, attacking players will not flourish. Even Alan cannot score in a season. Alan cannot score 20 goals. He doesn't have creativity behind him. He won't score 20 goals in a season. So that creativity is very important for the center forwards.
Right. So we have a solid defensive base because we've got the physique. We've got the physique. We've got the defensive midfield. Africans command that holding midfield role.
Yeah, Party and Vista, you said it already. Even back in the SCN.
The SCN, John Obi Mikel, and all that. Even those who are playing now for other countries, Pogba, Kante. This one came on to shore up the midfield yesterday for Portugal. He has African blood in him. I'm trying to remember.
What is his name? Carvalho.
Carvalho, who has been linked with many clubs over the years, and I don't know why he has not made a bigger break yet. When you look at the bill, when you look at the solidity of the African player, you understand why he's got that flair to be that holding midfielder. But then, creative-wise, football is in our DNA. Football is where we play, we get past players, we put the ball through your legs and you celebrate it like if you won the World Cup. That is where creativity started from. That is where the likes of J.J. Okocha started to play from. Steven Pienaar started to play from. And the likes like Abedi Pele, Abdoulaye Traore, all over. But why are we running out of options when it comes to that department of the field, which is what we need to unlock solid teams? Because you see, what you're going to find going forward is that Cameroon is going to play the likes of Serbia. Serbia is, you call them European, but if you go to their country, you see that this is the Igbo brand of Europe. They are solid. They are fighters. Just like Croatia. Croatia gives a physical game. And Serbia will give Cameroon a physical game. They will actually, when they finish that game, they will go back to their hotels and the Cameroonians will know about it from the treatment room for massages and that. So that creative part of the game, what's happened? Are we not grooming them enough? Or Has there just been a lack of interest, or talent has just died?
For me, I think the coaches. For me, I'll blame that on the coaching pool in the country. I'll blame that on the coaching pool. I'm sorry. Everything I say here, sir, according is based on my experience in Nigeria, sir. So I think the coaching pool is to be blamed for that, because we don't allow players express themselves. From the short time I've been around Nigerian coaches, you know, they try to make decisions for players on the pitch, even during training, during sessions. They try to make decisions for players on the pitch. So, and creativity, from the word creativity, is something that is supposed to be inside of the player himself, not somebody telling you what to do. Once someone tells you what to do, that's not creativity. You understand? So the coaches in the country, they try to make decisions for players. You understand? Well, they try to make decisions for players. So that's the idea. So if you want a player to be creative, you have to allow him be able to express himself on the pitch. You understand? Allow them make mistakes. Allow them express themselves on the, even though the person tries to do something that is fancy and he makes a mistake, does something wrong. Don't the next thing you say from local, maybe a player is trying to do leg over in one area to create a space for himself and he made a mistake. The coach shout, "Why did you shoot now? Why did you pass now?" No, that's not how it should be. The players should be allowed to express themselves, because it's expression that brings creativity, not telling what to do. That doesn't bring creativity.
Well, I mean, there's a separate argument to that one, because I remember there was a player who expressed himself a few weeks ago for Manchester United, Anthony. He did something really ridiculous, and because it didn't come off, he got yanked off almost immediately and substituted. So creativity has its limits, and the freedom of expression has its limits.
Yes, but in Anthony's case, Anthony was just going around in a particular spot. Well, just going around on a spot. It was just like he was trying to doing something fancy, not something. He wasn't trying to penetrate. He was just turning around in a. But I'm talking of in a situation where, for example, the things that Neymar does. Neymar cannot just do it one day, and Neymar did not do all those things he was doing on the pitch the first day and he came off. No. He must have been doing it and failing when he was in his youth team in Santos. He must have been doing it and failing, and the coaches were encouraging him. If the coaches were telling him then that, "Oh, why did that go back? Don't do that nonsense. Don't do that here," he would never be playing like that. He would never play like that. You understand? Bruno Fernandes, most of the time, if Bruno Fernandes touches the ball in a match 10 times, 9 out of 10 times he will attempt a defense-beating pass. And defense-beating pass have a very low percentage of success. So which means that most times he misses the passes. If it was in an African setting, they'll be blaming him. Why are you mispassing the ball anyhow? But the fact is that when the player does that, every time he misses a pass, he learns what to do to make the pass the next time. But if the player does it the first time, you don't encourage him to keep doing it, you stop him from doing it, he's caged. He is caged. So the next time he doesn't know when to do it, he doesn't know how to do it, he doesn't know the weight of pass to put, he doesn't know the strength or the pace to play on the ball, he doesn't know the angle to play the ball, he doesn't know the technique to use to play the ball. So when he's doing it when he has to do it on the pitch, it becomes very difficult because it's not natural. That's it.
Let me use this opportunity to remind people who are watching and who will be watching that this is a program, Africa in Qatar, reviewing and previewing the African performance and participation in the World Cup in Qatar 2022. It's brought to you by Afscoan, the African Football Scouts and Coaches Association, which is an association that is brought together to bring identity, credibility, and innovation and respect to the job of scouts and coaches in Africa by Africans for Africans. To join Afscoan, just email with your details to join@afscoan.com and follow us on Twitter. And don't forget as well, subscribe to this channel, because we will be back periodically every now and again to talk about our exploits African exploits in the World Cup. And I believe that we should go far in the World Cup so that we will have more episodes to give you beyond the first round of the games. Remember, last World Cup in Russia, we did not go, no African country went beyond the first round. We're hoping that that will change, not just by one country, but many more countries than one out of the 5 will go beyond the first stage, especially because most of them have played the more difficult games of their groups in the first game. So I've got with me my director, program director, and a member of Afscoan, Niran Atobatele, with me as guest today. And we have been dissecting what's been going on so far in the World Cup, how we have drawn a blank until today when Senegal actually had a win. And I want to call the attention of you, my viewers, to a video. I don't know, Niran, if you've got it. It would take only 1 minute.
First of all, 3 minutes. After 3 minutes, we conceded the goal.
بدينا وبعد 3 دقائق جاء في مرمانا جول.
It happened in football, huh?
تحصل في كرة القدم.
It's our fault.
خطأنا احنا.
After we push.
بعد كده ضغطنا عليهم.
We got some opportunities.
كانت لنا أولوية وفرص.
But not a lot.
بس مو كثير.
We don't put enough intensity in the duels, guys. They don't like the duel.
وما أعطينا الاشتراكات حقها.
So sometimes, boom! More!
أحيانا تحتاج إنك تدخل بكامل قوتك.
This is without ball.
هذا اللي بدون كورة.
After with ball is your talent will make the difference.
ولما تكون معنا
Keep
الكورة.
calm, it will come.
استخدم مهارتك. اصبر راح يجي الجول.
We still have 45 minutes, so keep calm.
عندنا 45 دقيقة، اهدأ وركز.
Keep the confidence.
خلي ثقتك في نفسك.
And go.
وحاول.
Come on.
حاول. يلا شباب.
Niran,
Yes, sir.
coaching. What do you
Yeah,
say?
it's a good motivational speech. It's not every time that you, even though let me point about this thing. The first half, they actually played well, but he still gave them a kind of head, not really head dryer, because he didn't finish get angry, but he just put them on their toes even more. And I'm sure they must have felt they needed to do more, and they did the more, and they got the win. So it's a great speech, and I like the motivation behind it. I like it. Most players will be motivated by that and be encouraged to do more in second half.
Harvey Renard is no slouch in African football. He's a
Of course,
champion. He won the African Cup of Nations with Ivory Coast and with Zambia.
First time, both of them.
Zambia, especially when they were the underdogs. And I was talking to Didier Drogba a couple of days ago, and he said this guy is a master class when it comes to coaching. That, he knows what to say, he knows what to do to motivate and galvanize his team. And he did just that. Now, one of the things that, because we are coaches and scouts, and we're aspiring to be coaches and scouts bigger in the field, one of the things that we need to understand is that before Harvey got up to actually make that speech, when they came into the dressing room, he sat down on the same bench in the locker room like his players. When you look around, you wouldn't even know that he was there until you saw his white shirt. And then he got up from amidst them to come and make that speech. What he was trying to do there was, we are together. And that was the only thing that gave him the effrontery to actually come out there and speak the way he did to them, and for them to understand and appreciate it. Now, a lot of our coaches, a lot of our managers, especially in Africa, where we say we want to be better, we see ourselves as the be all and the end all. We see ourselves as up there on top, and we sit down amongst our players and be like them. He actually went into their midst, sat with them, and while everybody's adrenaline dropped a little bit after the first half, and then he got up And then he changed his voice. Now, such motivation is very important. You know, he said that they were considered a goal, but they have the talent to push. He said they have the talent. He gave them the belief that they could actually do better than they were doing, although they reacted very well after the goal against Argentina.
Yeah.
They reacted well against Argentina, even after that first goal. We didn't know where they got the performance from. So they went in at halftime, came out, and he told them to push even further with even more intensity. And he looked absolutely, you would think that he was Argentina and the other team, like, you know, it's the kind of speech you give when you, the favorites, are slouching against the underdog.
Yes,
You know,
exactly.
he made it look
Exactly.
like, come on, what makes you think you can't do it? What makes you think you can't do it? Now, that is an element of coaching that we needed to bring out in this program. What do you think, Milan? Great.
Yes, yes. Look. Being a coach, yeah. Apart from the fact, yes, the things that happen on the football field is different. Being a coach, first of all, you're a manager. You have to manage people. You have to motivate, and one of the characteristics of management, because I read business administration, is motivation. You have to be able to motivate people. So, and we have seen with many of these coaches. We've seen if you watch it, there's this series on Amazon. It's called sorry to do advert. Yeah, it's called there's a series on series they don't do the Arsenal one. I've forgotten the title now.
All or nothing?
Yes, all or
All or
nothing.
nothing.
So all or nothing Arsenal. You saw at Ateta that he one time even brought the photographer that I've been there for 40 years. He didn't even talk. He just sat back and he brought the photographer that was there for 40 years. Come and talk. So that one will speak to them like a fan, not like a coach. So those are the different ideas that these people do to motivate their players. We saw the Mourinho one. You understand? So these things, I don't think all these our coaches are watching these things. Because I watch it, because me, I want to grow in the game. I want to know how these top guys do what they do. And these are the guys that we should learn from. These are the guys that we should learn from. We should know what they are doing. But in Africa, we don't even go for the coaches that are most qualified in the first place for the top jobs. We don't go for people that are most qualified. Some people have been there for so long, and we don't know what they've achieved in the game before they even got there. And they've been in that team for a very, very long time in the Super Eagles team. So we're talking about first of all, we're not even employing the best in the country for the top jobs. We're employing people that we know. And when you don't, and when you jeopardize the best people to employ people that you know, the coaching quality will not be good. That's just it. That's just it. So when we start to employ the best coaches, there are coaches that can do these things. There are coaches in the country that can do these things. Yes. When I was on office staff, I've had many bosses. Some of them are like this. They're like that. They motivate you. When you see them in the morning, you are just smiling. And there are some that have worked with you. See them in the morning, you are just your morale is down. You understand? So that motivation is very, very important in the sport, in coaching. It's one of the most important things. To me, it's more important than even the coaching itself. At the highest level, it's more important than the coaching itself because most of the players can play football already. So at the highest level, that's one of the most important things. The motivation, making these players want to give their best. What will make Saudi Arabia beat Argentina? Is it quality? No, they have more quality. But it's that motivation, that push.
Who wanted it more?
Exactly, that fire that he put in them, in their bellies.
Absolutely. I loved that video, and I actually congratulated Harvey. I sent him a message yesterday to say, look, you know what? You've been doing it, and continue to do it.
I'm sure that got a lot of congratulations.
I'm sure he has. He actually has not responded yet. And I don't blame him because I'm sure he's received thousands of such
Of
messages.
course, and on top of that, is that the World Cup, so I'm sure he doesn't have any time for that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, listen, we're going to end on an interesting note. You look at the World Cup, and you look at all the countries that are playing there, and you see that Africa is struggling. We're not doing fine so far. However, there are some countries that are doing well, started well, with African input, but they're just African in blood, but they're playing for other countries. Look at Senegal, Switzerland had a goal scored for them against Cameroon by a boy who was born in Cameroon, who left
Cameroon. Who is that?
Mbolo.
Okay, Mbolo, yes, sorry, yeah, Mbolo.
Mbolo left Cameroon when he was 6 years old.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, yesterday, immediately after the game, Cameroonian fans went to his hometown, his house in Cameroon, and attacked it for daring to score against his fatherland. and that was not pleasant. There was a big comment from his mother that we're not going to put on here because we're Afscoan. We're not going into the politics of it, where she accused them that Switzerland helped develop her son, and Cameroon was busy asking for money before they can put his son in the under-17 team. We're not going to go there now.
No, because that one is a very deep area.
It's really deep. It's really deep, and it's not it's our concern. It's our business, because it is our business because they are disreputing. Anybody who does that is disreputing the profession that we want to uphold, the profession of scouts and coaches. But we're not going to go there now. But when you look at, further afield, Mbappe, Saka, all over, Okafor for Sweden, Akanji. Do you know that Nigeria that you talk about, Nigeria can raise a whole team from that World Cup? You say Nigeria didn't qualify for the World Cup. There will be 11 players in that World Cup who have Nigerian blood in them, apart from gold.
It's even more than 11. Canada has 2. Canada has 2. So the thing is, those players, if they were Africans, if they were in Nigeria, would they have made it in the sport? That's one thing we have to ask ourselves. Probably not. Yes, probability of making it in football in Africa is very low. So probably not. So at the end of the day, the people that develop them are the ones who are enjoying them. So I don't feel any grievance towards that. It's not like they developed in Nigeria and then they moved. And then there are people that haven't been developed in some country and they moved. So that's someone like Costa developed in Brazil, but then he played for Spain. That's a different thing entirely. That's different. Because he developed in Brazil and played for Spain. That's a different thing entirely. But in a situation where the player was developed by the country he's playing for, then I have no complaints. Because we didn't develop player. So in short, in a way, Nigeria has benefited from it because the likes of Iwobi, Basi, Ekong, Moses, and then this Aribo. So we benefited from it because they've helped us develop players. They develop players for us to use. You understand? So we cannot say because the player is born here, his life now belongs here. One we did not add to the person. We did not add to the person. If I have a father that the father does not add to me, and I have another person that has been a father figure to me, I will be more loyal to my father figure than the person that is just a biological father. That's the truth. That's the truth. So I have no grievances. They did well. They did what they have to do, and the countries are enjoying it.
Good. And finally, it was very ironic to see my very good friend, President George Weah, celebrate. He's the president of Liberia, celebrating his son, who actually is playing for the United States because he was born in the United States, and celebrating. He scored the only goal so far for the US, and then he is going to start today again against England. So Africa has got talent. We now need to know how to harness the talent.
Yes, that's why at the beginning of the show, I said that the problem with us in Africa is that we do not exploit the pool of talent that we have. We don't exploit them. Because if a player that someone that will amount a footballer that would have amounted to nothing in Africa will go to Europe and become a star. A star, because the right things are in place, the right structure is in place for that player to his talent to grow. But here, the talent, the structure is in place to put you down and make it very hard for you difficult for you to pierce that ceiling. So that's the problem that we have. But hopefully, things will get better.
Well, it's been an interesting one. We hope for better news going into the second round of games in the World Cup. Thank you very much, Niran, for all your work in putting the show together and for your contribution as well. Thanks to everybody who is watching us. Like I said, Afscoan is for all of us. You know, gone are the days when we say that coaching and scouting is only for people who played the game at the highest level. And then when you retire, then you can become a coach or a scout. Now, you know, people can do it. Anybody can be a coach and a scout. If you have a knack for it, if you have a flair for it, and you've got the knowledge and computer knowledge because of the software that we use these days, then you can be a scout. Did you know that Sevilla Football Club has 700 scouts in their payroll? That is a lot. 700 scouts that they pay to scout in one capacity or the other. And there are so many other clubs like that. So the job of scouting is not exclusive to one part. When Germany went for the World Cup in Russia, they went with 9 scouts. Okay, so scouting and coaching is a big thing, and I implore you to come. We are going to give you identity. We are going to give you credibility. We are going to give you respect. You know, and open doors of opportunity for you to actually express yourself in the job of scouting and coaching as the year goes on. So thank you very much. If you want to join Afscoan, join at afscoan.com. Follow us on Twitter. Subscribe to this YouTube channel because we're still coming back for more on the World Cup. And also after the World Cup, we're still going to come back and do more football analysis on various competitions, various tournaments, youth tournaments, anything, women's football, anything that will actually empower us, that would enhance the capacity of scouting and coaching in Africa. We're going to be there. We're going to be there for you, and we're going to be there to make sure that it happens and that Africa is recognized and that we reach that place where our talent actually deserves to be. Thank you so much. Nira, I want to say thank you. And thanks to my viewers. I will see you again after a few days when we've absorbed a few more of the football action. Last words from you, Niran.
Thank you, everybody, for viewing this episode. Please don't forget to subscribe, like this video. Also, you can share it. Share to people that you know that are interested in that are coaches and scouts and football lovers, and especially for African football that are interested in the game in Africa. Share it to them and let them subscribe as well. So thank you once again for coming on the show.
All right. Thank you. Cheers.